sharing this because what I do for a living, I'm so happy to do it every day. I go to work. It's such a blessing to be able to impact the lives of different people. And I actually have, I recognize I have students in the room that attended classes when I taught with the school system. And I'm just so happy to see parents and students in attendance as well. So today what I'm going to discuss is transition services, and we're going to talk about, what to expect for people that have different differences and maybe intellectual disabilities, and also we're going to discuss if you're a parent or just a friend or a neighbor, because we are our brother's keepers, aren't we? Amen. We're going to discuss, how you can assist families that may have different age children with different disabilities. So we'll go to our next. Oh, I have a clicker. I'm sorry. There we go. Technology.
Mama, I'm thirsty.
All right.
Thirsty, Mama.
This thing works.
Thirsty.
Okay. I don't think it's clicking. The clicker, remote control, I think it's back there. Well, I can't prepare in case that didn't work. I have it on my phone too. So as I told my son he wanted to use my phone, I said, well, no, you never know. So, as I pull this up, I'm going to move on. It's just a second. I'm just pulling it up on my phone. Maybe the gentleman, if you just hit the arrows on the computer itself, that would be wonderful. It's still loading on my phone. But I'll just give you a quick synopsis of what we're going to discuss tonight. What we're going to talk about is basically planning the future for different people. If you have a child or a loved one with a disability. I was a school teacher in the district of Alachua County for 15 years, and I worked with mainly students that were approaching adulthood. They were in high school. And I worked at Gainesville High School, Buchholz High School, the City Lanier School, and now I have my own non-for-profit organization called Life Transition Skills, because we believe that adults that have disabilities are able to do, the sky's the limit, but it's all about preparing them for the future adequately. And there we go. All right, so I said that. All right, we're going to go to the next one. Thank you, guys. Okay, so when you're working, or if you have anyone in your family, or a friend, or you have a child with a disability, you need to think about the end in mind. Think about the finish line. And unfortunately, a lot of our schools are even failing to educate individuals appropriately because they don't think about the end. Even when you have a child that doesn't have a disability, you want to think about, not that you want to plan your child's life because you want them to be in charge of their own life, but you need to think about, usually people ask little kids, well, what do you want to do when you want to grow up? What is that? You start thinking about these things ahead of time. So you want to know where will he or she live. You want to know something else, like where are they going to work? Okay? How will they get around if they're not driving, for example? And let's go back to, there we go. And what will happen when you're no longer able to be around to basically support them? That's the big question. Like when you're a parent and you're no longer there, how are they going to be prepared to take care of themselves, or who's going to be there to help them? All right, let's continue with our next slide. All right, so furthermore, with having the end in mind, you want to think about, okay, is college going to be a possibility? It's working out, okay, great. Let's test it out. There we go. All right. Is technical school, is the workforce, what are they going to do when they age out of the K-12 system? Okay, what's going to happen? So this young man, his name is Alberto. Alberto, he's 19 years old, okay, and it says he has just graduated from high school, okay? And Alberto received a special education in school, and he had a one-on-one aide, that's an adult that basically assisted him with schoolwork while in school, okay? And now that his school is ended, his parents are unsure what to do, because you have to remember when a child goes to school, they receive funding. It's thousands of dollars that we pay in taxes to provide funding for children to go to school. It's billions of dollars going to educating children in public schools here in the United States, and we pay a lot of money for private schools as well. But when school is out and done, those services, those are no longer being funded anymore. It's up to the parent now to figure out what they're going to do with this, this young lady or young man. And this is there's a problem that many of us don't even realize that this is happening every day. So if you have a loved one with a disability, you know what it's like. But if you are not a parent or a family member of somebody that has a disability, you're not really thinking about this until you're made aware of it. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Oh, I have this thing. Oh. Thank you. Somebody's paying attention. All right, so this is kind of like a metaphor, falling off the cliff. This is like a known thing with parents who have children with a disability. Once school ends, okay, you had a child in school, they go to school from 8:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. If they're a small child, they get to go to after-school program until 6 o'clock. And then you get off of work and just pick them up, right? And when they get to high school, most of the day is in school. But what happens when they get out of school? You're, as a parent or a guardian of someone with a disability, you have to start scrambling for what to do right now because my child does not have a place to go. And if they're not able to stay home and, just be safe in the house, now I have to hire somebody. If I don't have the money to do it, how am I going to do that? How am I going to rearrange my job? So those are all things that come into play. And we're going to discuss how to be more adequately prepared for that. So we want to set goals, like anything, you want to set goals for anything important. Number 2, consider realistic options. Number 3, we want to foster independence. So let's talk about setting goals. Next slide. So we have students in the K-12 system. That means they're from kindergarten to 12th grade. We want to set goals in what's called an IEP meeting. Does anybody know what an IEP meeting is? That's called an individualized education plan. And that's a plan that the school and the parents, and you can invite different agencies and community. Anybody who cares about that child can come to that meeting. It's one time every year from the time they get services and special educational services. But you want to focus on career readiness. So when you go in there as a parent or someone who cares about this child, you want to go in there and think about the end. Where are they going to work? Where are they going to live? How are they going to get around? Because the schools, that's one of the reasons why I quit my job and started my own program. They do not think about that. Okay? And as a church, we have to help our parents and help our community better to be more adequately prepared. Unless you have a lot of money or just, you have a big family or there's a lot of resources, you have better options. But if you don't have those things, you're a parent who's going to take care of these children indefinitely if you don't have a better plan. And so you have to think about career readiness and how independent they're going to be when they leave school. All right? As far as setting goals for adults, because there also are adults in the room that are finished with school and age up, you want to develop an employment plan with an agency called Vocational Rehabilitation. They're here in Gainesville. I actually am a provider for them. My company has a contract with them. And what they do is, along with me, providers like myself, we provide free training on career training. And we also help individuals with disabilities find a job and coach them on the job. And this is all taxpayer money. It's completely free if you have a young adult who's 22 or older, and they've already finished with school, and they basically need a job. Okay, we'll coach them, we'll train them. All right? I'm gonna write that down. We'll find a way to save this. I'll talk to you now about that. It's PowerPoint. Okay, in considering realistic options, you also want to, in addition to a traditional college track, because most people, when you go to school, the public schools are all about everybody's going to college. Everybody's going into, a career. Everybody's going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, an attorney. But that is not the case for many people, realistically. Okay? So we want to think about when your child is young and they've identified that this child has a special way of learning, and they get in special ed classes. When they're small, you want to think about what kind of jobs are there when they graduate from high school. Okay? What kind of good career, what good careers do they have that they can get some training or maybe just go right into the career and they don't have to go to college. And even for children who may not have a disability, we want to think about those things too, because there are a lot of good jobs out there that you don't have to go to school for 4 years, 2 years, 8 years, and get a college degree. We have this thing in America where we're stuck on potential, because we're so stuck on, potential. Potential is a good thing, but, it can really cause some people to waste time. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go to my next slide. We're going to explain this more. So K-12 prepares students for what kind of education? A general education. Okay, remember this. Okay, it's general. You get English, math, chemistry, science. These are all things that, we learn about in a general way. And it's not necessarily that's a bad thing, but it's a general education. You get a little bit of this, you get a little bit of that. So in our educational system, when do we offer specialized training? Somebody tell me, when do you start specializing in what you're actually going to go in, what field you're going to learn? What part of your educational experience do you specialize? Anybody can tell me? I'd say Masters, but maybe a little bit before that. Your last 2 years, your junior year and your senior year of college. Right? So your first 2 years, all kindergarten through 12th grade, they give you general education, right? Then you get to college, your first year, freshman year, you get more general education. Then your sophomore year, I went to UF and I got more general information at second. Then by the time you become a junior, you get into your college. That's when you start learning about a specialty, okay? And then when you get into like a master's degree, you can specialize even more in a PhD. Okay? Now that system is a little bit problematic for the population that I work with. Because they need to specialize earlier. Okay? And that's the problem with the way we're educating individuals with disabilities. And that's something that God has revealed to me. I've been working with this population, and I get them when they're almost adults, and we do some major transformation in terms of what they are able to do in a short time. Because I only have a short time to work with them. When I was a teacher, I worked with them from age 18 to 22. And parents would be like, oh my goodness, you did such an amazing job. How did you get them to do this and that and the other? And I'm shaking my head. I'm like, man, we started so late. So if you have children that are small, You need to start earlier and you need to specialize earlier. Okay, what do I mean by that? Think about what skills do you need to work as a cashier? Somebody tell me.
Money.
You need to be able to count money well, okay. You need to be able to do what else? Say, okay, I can't say it loud.
Sorry,
Type, okay, you need to be able to use a computer, right? Okay, what else? Communicate. You need to have good customer service. What else? Courtesy. Okay, you need to have good courtesy. You need to be able to problem solve. You need to deal with, have good social skills to deal with angry people, right, when they approach you. Okay? You need to be able to get along with people. You need to be trustworthy not to steal. Okay? So these are all skills, okay, so that you can identify at a young age. These are an inventory of skills that they need to learn, but the school is not preparing them that way. The school is just giving them the same general education that they give everybody else. Despite what they put on the kids' IEP or we're going to do this, we're going to focus on this, it is not adequate. Okay? And so they come out knowing a bunch of things and they don't even learn it that well. They need to learn a few things very well, instead of learning a lot of things somewhat well. Okay? I'm going to go back to this vocational rehabilitation because it's really, really an important service once students become 14. Okay? Thank you to President Obama, not to get political, but he was extremely instrumental in adding a lot of funding to this program. So when a child is age 14, starting 14, there's a free program where they get all types of job readiness while in high school. This is recently, and when they become an adult, it continues, but they can start in high school. Before him, you had to wait till you become an adult to access this program. There wasn't even that much money in it. Now, there's a lot of funding to allow, and it's an agency right on the corner from here, where they can go visit. It's on 43rd, and it's by the Bank of America, in the Bank of America building. They go in there. It does take long, like weeks, months sometimes to get services, but this is something that they need to do if they're aged out of school right away, okay, so that they can get working. Why is employment important? When you're working, are you at home, sit idle? No. When you're working, you're in a safe place. That's number one. When you're working, you're getting social skills. When you're working, you feel good about yourself. When you're working, you can have money to take care of yourself. So that's a big thing. We need to prepare adults and children with disabilities to work. Why do we go to school in America and other places around the world? What is the goal? What's that? Self-sufficiency. Okay? The problem is that the schools are educating the children without the end in mind. They're educating the children just because it is the right thing to do. Because they haven't done right in the past and they were excluding people with disabilities, putting them in institutions, and now we're all about inclusion. So, okay, we put a kid in a class, they're getting an education, we're giving them access. However, what is the point? Are we giving them access just to say that they have access to everything? Would it be right to put a person with disabilities in a physics class that they don't understand? Or they have access to it? But that is not right either. So you're going from one extreme to another extreme. Before we weren't giving them access to anything. Now, our country, we give them access to whatever they like. But it's gone too far because now we're going to the other end of the spectrum where we're giving them access to things that don't really benefit them. Okay? So talk to your teachers and ask them, how is what they're learning today going to impact them tomorrow to work and to be self-sufficient? Okay, has anybody ever heard about this program called the Medicaid Waiver? Raise your hand if you've heard about that. Okay, let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay, raise your hand if you know somebody with a disability. Okay, 1, 2. Keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, a lot of people. So if I were to ask the same question to the public schools and pediatricians, psychologists, sadly, I've actually asked this to people, many people of different walks of life, and they don't know what this is. That's a tragedy. It's a really terrible thing. Because as soon as a child is born, the doctor or whoever is the medical provider for the child or whoever, the school should let them know about this program. Because this program is the single most important program related to funding for a child with a disability or an adult. And I'll tell you why. Because it's a program that basically funds all types of supports that the child, when they become an adult, will need when they get out of school. Okay, it's called a Medicaid waiver. It's a waiver program that basically is just, it's not Medicaid insurance. It's basically, it covers what Medicaid insurance does not cover. And I'll tell you why it's important. Because it gives between $15,000 in the state of Florida to $50,000 worth of services for annually for people with disabilities. But guess how long the waiting list is? Look up there. 10 plus years. So if your child is in kindergarten and they're 5, they might get it when they're 15, right? At least they'll get it when they turn 18 maybe. But if your child gets to 12th grade and they're 18 years old, and they won't get it to almost when they're 30. And that's not even guaranteed because there's like 50,000 people on the waiting list. Okay? And the reason why this is important because this program funds where they live. This program supports services like who helps them get a job, who helps them, who watches them when they're working. It funds services such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, you name it. It even funds, my company is a provider for this program, and I have a day program, and the people who have the Medicaid waiver come to my program for $0. I just bill them. And I have a program that educates young adults that have more advanced special needs from 8:30 to 3:30 every day. So as soon as they graduate from high school, they come to my program. But if they don't have this program, they have to pay a lot of money out of pocket, which most people can't afford to pay for it. So this needs, if you know somebody with a disability and they haven't applied, ask them what the Medicaid waiver is. They say, I don't know what that is. They need to go immediately to this website and put in the application immediately. And the reason why I said it is because don't be discouraged. If you have a crisis situation, for example, like if your child, if a parent becomes homeless, or they have there's nobody to take them in, if they've applied, they'll go to the top of the list. And it's called a crisis package. They'll get a crisis. Other than that, that's pretty much the only way to get it. If it basically is almost impossible to get it, sadly, if you haven't applied early, but you still need to apply in case there's a crisis. There's a young man I work with, his father just passed away. I was his only caregiver, he was adopted, and we did a crisis package for him, and I think that he's going to get services within the next few months. Okay? Let's move on. How can the church help? Let's talk about that, because I'm here because, you're a ministry that obviously cares, else you wouldn't have this program. The church can help because you can provide support for parents who have children or adults with disabilities. You can provide support in a lot of ways. You can help help them fill out some of these application packets that are difficult. You can also help parents to encourage their children to be more independent. So in my experiences, working with this population, people want to do everything for them. When they're little, you want to tie their shoe, you want to give them a cup to drink, help them drink it, They're taking long to put their clothes on. You want to do all those things for them. You should not do that. Okay? And people in my field, they want to sugarcoat everything. Oh, they tell parents. So at the IEP meetings, they're talking to parents so gently. But I'm at the point where, I feel like it's very detrimental for me not to tell you the truth. Okay? So I just tell parents flat out, oh, don't do that. Because when I was a younger teacher, I had to talk to people a certain kind of way. But now I'm like, okay, I'm at the point where, okay, I'm just going to tell you the truth in a nice way. If you do that, if you continue tying their shoe and dressing them and giving them a cup, holding their hands across the street, doing everything for them, you're going to be taking care of them for the rest of your life. Okay? And when you're not around, this is the honest truth, nobody's going to take care of your children the way you do. Think about that. If you continue to enable your children, that goes for children who are not, even don't have a disability, you are going to be taking care of them for the rest of their life. They will not learn self-sufficiency, and the world will deal with them in a way that you would not like to see, happen if you were able to, control things. So as a church, you want to encourage parents and the younger people to be independent. Okay? Allow them to come here and take a part in the program, mistakes and all. Okay? Amen. Give them opportunities to do as much as possible. Let them serve our ministries. Let them do as much as possible. Encourage them, support them, but don't do everything for them. Encourage independence. The church can also help educate parents about the services. So parents who didn't come tonight, let them know about that Medicaid waiver that we talked about and the vocational rehabilitation service that's free. Help parents with applications. And this is not the case of all situations, but a lot of times parents may also, there's a lot of barriers that parents have that raising children with disabilities. They might have some struggles intellectually themselves, or they might have their hands full. It's stressful. Amen. They may just be stressed out, and it's helpful if somebody can ask them what they need. Can I, drive such and such? Here's a big one. Assist parents with writing a life plan. And a life plan for the children would be, ask them, do you have a plan? Do you have a will? Do you know what you're going to do? If I were to go today, would you be able to help my son or daughter to navigate life? Even something as simple as that, getting a commitment from family members or a church family, in the event of something happening to me, could you help my son or daughter? A church member could fill in, and could they live with you for a little while till you get them help and get them stable? That's a big deal. I actually had a parent that I work with. She put me as a beneficiary for her son's, all kind of things, insurance, and I'm supposed to execute, things of that matter in the event, his father just passed away. So she is the mother of the 2 sons with special needs, and the only other person around is a grandmother who's 83 years old. And she's already in her 60s. So if she goes and the grandmother's not around, who's going to help those 2 young men? So she asked me, and it's a big responsibility, she entrusted me with executing things for them. And so you need somebody like that. Parents, so who would be better, a family member or a church member, to help with a situation like that? That's how the church can help. That's a ministry. All right. We talked about that, incorporating individuals with disabilities into the worship service. And it's more than just getting them involved. It's also so that people around them can get to know them and know how to work with them. So if you see somebody taking advantage of them, the more people that know about a person with a disability, the better and safer their life is as well. Attend IEP meetings with the parents. Ask, can you come? So you can learn more about this. Okay? And this is a big one right here, because I'm all about job development, career development for this population. Help the person find a job. How many of us have a job in this room? Raise your hand if you have a job. Okay, do you know it's a ministry to help somebody to find a job? So if you have a job, then you know like 20 other people that have a job. So if you hear about a job opportunity, ask a person, a parent, or the person with a disability what they're interested in doing, what their skills are, and try to help them find a job. Because if they have a job, they become less idle for the day. They have something that they're doing meaningful. They're costing their parents less money. Now they're not costing their parents money. Now they're actually making money. Okay, you see how that works? So offer the person a job. That changes the family's life tremendously. Knowing that their adult is in a safe place working. And the Bible says, let's read this together. Write the vision and make it plain. Okay? So we, as a church and as families, we need to write down what we want to do. Okay? We need to write down. So if you're a parent of a young child, write down what you want to see your child doing. How will they live? How will they work? How will they get around? And put some answers to those questions so that you're prepared and you're not just having them educated in general ed and not having a real plan. For children K to 12, by basically private or public schools, attend those IEP meetings and you want to make sure that those IEP meetings and what they write on that piece of paper aligns with something in the future. I can't overemphasize that enough. It has to align. It can't just be, okay, they're going to learn 2 plus 2. They're going to learn better mathematics. They're going to learn how to add and divide. Well, why are they adding and dividing? I want my son to be a cashier, or I want my son to be able to do bookkeeping. Okay? That's why we need to add and subtract. Okay? Why are they going to be friendly? Because I want them to work in a retail store. I want them to be a store manager. I want them to be, a customer service person at Best Buy. Or I want them to, why are we learning a computer? Because I want them to be able to program a computer. It has to be related to what you think they're going to do, because when you're a parent of a child with disabilities, a lot of cases they're not going to be going to your four-year universities, even Santa Fe. They're going to go right into, a lot of them are going to go right into the workforce. So they need to be ready out of high school to go into the workforce. Okay, so you have to overly prepare them for something really specific. We talked about you need to have your teachers change that general education to more of a specialty kind of thing. Okay, which they're not going to know what you're talking about. Trust me. Because they're going to be confused about it, because that's not what they do. You have to get them to get in that